Hi, welcome back to a second segment of Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Judy Nathans.
And I'm Robert Winters.
So, you want to just finish up on that, or should
Yeah, a
we
little
just,
bit. So, we don't want to obsess too much about Alewife and Envision Cambridge.
But it does bring up some really thorny and good issues. I mean, too many cars, too many people. But
right.
Let's get ahead of it.
We actually saw it wasn't so made public, but already there are some communications from the Fresh Pond Residents Alliance.
Oh, I didn't see
with
that.
a whole laundry list of objections and
Based on last night's stuff?
no, not on even before, but just based on the plans and one of the things that I think any reasonable person should have anticipated was that you start this whole master plan process.
Yeah.
It goes through. You get a lot of good, thoughtful people, a lot of expert testimony. And then eventually they start coming up with plans. But the people who initiated the process, who may very well have just wanted to block stuff, they're not necessarily going to be happy with the sort of the good thinking that comes out of it all. Right. And they're going to find a lot of fault with it.
Yeah.
A year from now, 2 years from now, we're gonna see that play out a big way, I'm sure.
Yeah.
When we start talking about the whole city.
Yeah.
But it was totally anticipated by reasonable people that there would be a pretty, there's going to be a questions of this is an illegitimate process and whatever for any part of this whole process, including this. So already we're getting a little bit of blowback.
Even though there's been people invited to be on all these committees
it's absolutely true, yeah. But I think this is where the city councilors have to kind of step up and get a little beyond the parochialism and just to, and basically evaluate things for, just on its merits and deal with it. So if there's a marginal increase in traffic, or even a moderate increase in traffic, that goes on top of what's already a kind of a problematic pass-through traffic pattern in that area anyway. I think it was Iram Farouk, head of CDD, said, we shouldn't restrict a good plan for ourselves simply to accommodate the 90% of the traffic which is coming from Lexington passing through on its way to Boston.
Well, that's the big issue.
Yeah.
A toll booth, I guess.
Yeah. Well, maybe at some point people's driving patterns will change, or
I don't think so. I think Mark said it. No matter what, people like
Mark
the
said
cars.
something. He said something brilliant. Mark McGovern. He said something like, what this is really all about getting. Because you're stuck in traffic is getting other people to stop driving.
Right, and I heard something the other day that says you are the traffic.
You are the traffic.
It's not like don't complain, but you are part of this anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was a very interesting roundtable, one of the more interesting ones because they're actually getting into specifics.
I actually really paid attention.
The Cambridge Chronicle, I think, accurately assessed the general consensus from the city councilors that said that on balance, there's a lot of good stuff in here, that this is sort of a good plan, but there were a few missing pieces. One is the bridge issue.
Yep.
Craig Kelly is not going to be happy until the bridge is resolved. Dennis Carlone's not convinced that in fact this is going to generate the modest amount of traffic that was being projected. Right. I mean, not to throw darts here, but sometimes there are some individuals in CDD who do lowball the traffic estimates. Because they want to make it out as if we're encouraging biking and whatever, and look how successful we are. The reality is,
all those people in those offices aren't.
It's not as perfect as they make it out to be, and if it's snowing out, you might not be biking.
Right.
So anyway, but it was interesting, and there's more to come. And I think the council will be back for a regular meeting, I believe, next week. Pretty sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of other interesting things happening. For me, one of the more interesting things, and it kind of relates to things we've done in a show here, was there was actually, let's go, maybe we can even call up that image here. Yeah, I mean, we just sort of flash the picture, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. Okay, so everybody's been kind of beating up on Gerald Chan, because he's the billionaire who's buying up. Cambridge and everywhere else, right?
Keezers.
Right. Keezers over in Central Square, right? So, people say, well, what's he doing? He's just land banking. He's a bad guy. Well, there's an interesting flip that happened. Because, maybe it has been too long, but the Harvard Square Cinema sat there for 5 or more years.
Before
vacant.
he bought it? Right.
No, after he bought it, and then it just sat there vacant, awaiting a plan to be announced, which nobody ever heard. So in the interim, people getting a little steamed.
But then there was an order from the council, they had to
They were
appear,
saying-
right?
Right, yeah, but
It was
of
last
course,
month.
but the council doesn't have subpoena
No,
power.
but all of a sudden this happens?
Right, so but the thing is that
Yeah.
it's not like they were planning to just leave it vacant forever, it just
No,
took
but
too
4
long.
or 5 years is a long time.
Right, so they come back with a plan, and and I wasn't at the hearing, so I'm only getting the
Yeah, I wasn't
secondhand
there
and via
either.
newspaper
Yeah.
reports. But basically to take the Church Street side of the Harvard Square Cinema, some of you may remember, you used to
Yep.
enter on the Mass Ave side,
Oh, that was years
Right.
ago, yeah.
okay? But, where that whole wall is right now,
Mhm.
and they came up with a plan and everybody went, ooh, we
Yeah.
like this.
Well, show
So
them.
let's sort of go, there's one image of it right in here. Actually, let's scroll down just a tiny bit first, just to sort of
Oh,
show.
this is the
So
original.
this is what's there right now,
Yeah.
right? I took this picture a few days ago, just sort of showing it. Yeah, it's a painted features on there, but it's basically just a brick wall, and the cinema entry has been closed. Shuttered is right there near the first
Yeah.
floor, but it's basically like a 4-story wall.
Yeah,
Something like that. So let's
Yeah.
scroll back up to the new
Yeah.
picture here, okay? So what they're proposing now is nice, bright, glassed in, open retail and theater entrance. They have 2 movie screens proposed.
but this is open here, right? Is
And
this like a
an
curved thing
interior
here?
courtyard with
Yeah.
a break in the building, which I've
Yeah.
never seen in Cambridge done this way.
Yeah,
Where you basically get a nice loud peek into the whole interior courtyard. Now that whole block, which is right in the heart of Harvard Square,
yeah,
is actually kind of pretty opaque. Like what's what's in the interior of that block. So this is a very interesting kind of breaking into that block. So
would there, wait, I missed your point. Is there gonna be a movie theater there?
yes, there's going to be a movie theater with 2
Where?
screens. I think it'll be down at the lower level.
So you enter somewhere else?
And I think
Yeah.
I saw someplace there was a quote from Anthony Galluccio who
Yeah.
specifically mentioned that the Barrett petition, which allowed more flexible use of basement space, not only in residential but also commercial buildings,
Or did allow it?
actually made this whole project economically feasible. So
Really?
strike another, another
Patrick?
plus sign, another gold star for the Barrett boy,
Huh.
right? But the thing is, I think Gerald Chan's got to basically get a big pat on the back for coming through with something which is going to be really significant. I think it's just.
So the
it's
height's
great.
not anymore? No, because it's the same as this
It's
building.
about the same
No, it's
height.
the same height,
Yeah,
yeah.
give or take a little
Yeah.
bit. I don't know for sure, but the point is, I think most people found this to be pretty desirable.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there are some people who are going to object to anything and everything, but some of the main players I think had some pretty decent things to say about it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so anyway, I think that was a pretty good
Yeah.
thing, and I hope it's the beginning of a lot more interesting
Yeah.
projects to come. I mean, people may have some issues because somebody's a billionaire, but if somebody's a billionaire, they're also capable of doing some amazing things. And maybe in some of the other Chan properties around the city, maybe we can start to get a little hopeful.
He is into science research and doing good things for
I think-
mankind. So
I think Gerald Chan fundamentally,
he's not a Donald
I
Trump.
think he wants to do things that are kind
Yeah.
of amazing, and ultimately
Yeah.
they may not be the things we like,
He doesn't. He
necessarily.
doesn't open casinos and golf
No.
courses. Yeah.
So this could work out great. But so this was sort of I thought it was just sort of an interesting
Yeah.
little change of
Definitely.
mood. All right. Kind
Okay.
of, so
Yeah,
I thought
that's
that was
good.
really significant. All right.
So we should talk. Let's see.
All
That I was wondering if you had anything to say about
right.
this.
Okay. So now.
You weren't there. Were
So
you? The
no, I was not. Right.
Okay.
But let's just sort of dodge off and talk a little bit of state level
Yeah.
politics, rather than buildings and such. Okay, so this past weekend, June, 2nd and 3rd, thereabouts, or third and fourth. They had the
state Democratic.
yeah, it was the Massachusetts Democratic Party Platform Convention,
Okay.
which apparently happens every 4th year.
Only every 4th year?
Yeah, it's an oddity. I mean, in a
I
presidential
thought they had
election
every year.
they have conventions, but the one
Oh,
where they
okay.
set the
Where they
platform
specific.
is this.
Oh, I didn't know
In fact,
that.
I was trying to find
That's
the
interesting.
proposed platform,
Yeah.
and then yesterday and this morning I was trying to find the one that
find
was got the amended version that actually passed on Sunday.
And
I think it was on Sunday. All you get is the 2013 platform
So I
because
guess they're not up to
honestly,
speed on that. Yeah.
not to be too critical, but
Yeah.
the Massachusetts Democratic Party are a bunch of amateurs.
They don't
Honestly,
know
if they can't,
in terms of web
you know,
development, yeah.
if there's a lot of people and you're getting a lot of press for your platform and you go
Yeah.
to the MassDem website and you don't have the platform there, then I think you need to think again, right? So I sent an email message saying, could you please post the current one, right? So I had a few spies there who were, you know, giving me info. Actually, one spy and then another person I ran into yesterday who told me some of the particulars. One of the things that made this interesting is it's actually a theme that you're seeing elsewhere. You're even seeing it in local city council races, which is the
the Bernie.
Yeah, the sort of the Sanders-esque movement, our revolution kind of people. You know, who, you know, I mean, a lot of politics is about power, so I don't think they're hiding the fact that they're trying to take over the party.
Be more progressive.
And, well, whatever that means, right?
Yeah, I know. Really.
Right? I think it's about power. It's about, like, we want our people to get into positions of power, right? So there was a platform that was, I mean, not that elected officials in the state are obliged to follow this platform, let's be clear.
Right.
It's sort of aspirational.
Right.
It tends to be
Same
reflective
as the federal,
of the party animals as
Right.
opposed to the elected officials,
and the people who
right?
vote.
And they're not always the same.
Right.
In fact, they're often not the same. But you know, they try and leverage certain outcomes with the platform. So there was like probably a pretty predictably solid Democratic Party platform, and then the Our Revolution gang had a bunch of planks that they wanted, you know, amendments they wanted in, and you know, some of which are pretty radical, and some of which were totally cool.
Are any of the three Democratic announced candidates for governor adopting any of these? Would they be considered in those camps? Massey,
You know,
City
I
Warren,
think,
and Gonzalez.
you know, I think because all of them were at the convention.
I know they
all
were.
of them
They're the only
spoke.
ones that talked about the governor,
Right.
and the rest of the people.
Right. So if
didn't
you're
talk
at
about Governor
if
Baker.
you're at a convention giving
Yeah.
a speech in front of a group of people who are voting for a particular platform,
Yeah.
let me tell
guess
you one thing you're not going to do,
is
which
go
is to
against
say
it.
how much you dislike the
Yeah,
platform.
right.
So of course, all of them are going to say, "What a wonderful, wonderful
Okay.
exercise in democracy,
I
and
see.
everything is great, and mom and apple pie, and wonderful." You know how much they buy into it. Who knows, right? You know, there are some particular things that I think is predictably solid Democratic goals, like what is it, $15 an
I
hour
was just gonna say wage stuff.
right? There were some planks in there. You know, can just show you there's some divisions in this party.
Oh, well, the Bernie Hillary. people.
Yeah. So there's you know, one of the hallmarks of like the develop Patrick period in my mind and before was a push toward things like transit-oriented development. Well, that's not changing, but it also meant that development is pretty good around transit, right?
Yeah.
And that includes market rate. Well, there were some activists who basically says we should only support 100% affordable housing projects, which basically means
You can't build anything.
nothing would be
Right.
built. And then that actually was defeated.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the Our Revolution groups. They were pushing for enabling legislation for rent control. They wanted to, they had a whole list. I still don't have the whole list of what they pushed through and what they were successful with. One thing that was of some interest to me was, you know, there's this group called Voter Choice Massachusetts who's been promoting ranked choice voting, right, which is not the same as proportional
We talked about
representation.
this, I think, 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
So apparently they successfully got that in as a platform
that's
to get support
Yeah.
for ranked choice voting. Now, the oddity about the way these conventions work is that, you know, a lot of the people haven't even seen the proposed amendments.
Yeah.
They're just introduced right on the spot. You get 5 minutes pro, 5 minutes
You mean,
con.
in other words, they were worked on behind the scenes, and then
Yep.
they come together and
Yep.
then they vote on them.
And the way I heard it was the Our Revolution people were holding up green signs to say vote for this one, and red signs don't vote again for this one.
Oh boy.
And the people were just doing as they were told, right? This is not my idea of democracy, by the way. This is not a statement about whether these are good proposals or not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, you don't just basically leave people in ignorance. I mean,
Yeah.
if I couldn't find a copy of what the
Yeah.
whole platform looked like,
Yeah.
as well as these amendments here, So is the only one people who get it the ones who sort of get
Right
a copy
there,
at
exactly.
the convention, if
Yeah.
then?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were voting on things they had no idea about. Like I was talking to one person yesterday, I said, you realize if you adopt, again, you put it in a platform that you support ranked choice voting for state offices, which includes state reps, state senators, governor, blah, 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 right? Okay, wonderful. I don't think there's too many people in the room knew that meant that you're probably supporting the elimination of party primaries.
Right.
Now, if you're a party animal and you have
You're not gonna
control
like that. Yeah.
because you can decide who's running against whom in these
You're
party
not gonna
primaries,
want
you're
that.
giving up
Yeah.
some control. Now maybe that's a good thing. I'm
I
happy
like
it is. I do too.
It saves money. That's what I
But
say.
if you're a party animal,
you're gonna
you're
say,
probably
hey,
going,
take
wait
away
a
my
minute, wait a
party.
minute.
Yeah, you're taking away
I'll
my.
bet you 90% of the
Yeah.
delegates at this convention had no idea that they were voting to eliminate party
You're probably
primaries.
right. I'd like to see some writing on that.
Right. So anyway, that's in there. I'm sort of cajoling the voter choice people to make sure that there's some enabling
Yeah.
legislation so that Cambridge can do a few tweaks to our system, but that's really not their priority at all.
Right.
Right. So anyway, interesting. And then I won't obsess on this anymore. The Our Revolution crowd also wanted to increase the number of members of the Democratic State Committee from whatever it is now. It's 106. I forget what it is, but they wanted to increase it by 50%.
Wow. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, and why are they doing
How
it?
did they get chosen?
Well, right now, I mean, there's sort of, for the most part, people who are committee members, they tend to remain committee members.
Yeah.
So it's a relatively stable body, and some new people come, some go, whatever. I think the Our Revolution people wanted to dramatically increase it so that they could fill in the vacuum.
Yeah, but how do you get filled in? Do you have to apply? How do you get?
I didn't get into enough detail because I couldn't get a copy of the platform to see what they were
No, but
proposing.
in the past, how do you become part of the Democratic State
You
Committee?
get actually elected. There are.
So you have to run for it.
Right, and they tend to be run unopposed. They're not democratic in the small d sense.
Are you talking about the ones that we see sometimes on the ballot?
And nobody knows and nobody
Okay.
cares. Right, exactly.
I see.
Right.
I didn't realize that.
So what they were trying to do is sort of with a manipulation,
to say- yeah.
basically to find a way to basically rush in a lot of their people in. So that was defeated.
Well, that's good.
Right. So I'm all for change, but I don't want one little faction just to rampage through. I don't think that's fair either. So anyway, I didn't go. So this is all second, third-hand information.
I just gotta quickly say something because I heard this on the radio.
We should have somebody on who was there.
Yeah, but this was about New Jersey. They have a governor thing going on now because it's term limits. And somebody was saying, this guy Phil Murphy, he missed the chance to bring together the progressives and the Bernie people and the Hillary people and to create a new Democratic thing because people were so entrenched. So that's interesting. So it's not just happening here.
No, it's happening all around the country, and it's even happening.
But
in
it was
the
an
city.
interesting comment that this is the time we can actually get together those forces and try to come up with something.
You
brand new.
have the youthful energy, and nobody can deny that.
So it's interesting that you said this because it's the same issues in a way.
But the thing is that if you got the youthful energy of the Bernie people basically thumbing their noses at the establishment Democrats as well, which is kind of part of the dynamic,
people,
then that's not going to get you anywhere, right?
All right, so let's let's go. Yeah, we only have 12 minutes left, so let's go to another hot issue.
Let's talk a little bit of Airbnb.
Short-term rental.
Right.
Generic term, because there's Flipkey and what's the other one? HomeAway.
HomeAway, right. So
Speedy and TripAdvisor.
So there was an ordinance committee meeting.
Yes,
I wasn't there, but you were there.
3.5 hours, and I left. I think it went on until 15 minutes after that. 27 public commenters.
Yeah.
And a little pushback from a couple of councilors about this owner adjacent thing and about
right, which is what now because
it's
so they want it right now. There's people doing.
They changed it, by the way, from owner to operator occupied, which would mean you could be a renter and do it. But they did throw in, which I was glad to hear. Well, you'd have to ask your landlord first because unless you build it into a lease, and landlords don't want people Airbnb-ing necessarily their apartments without them knowing.
No.
Okay. But they did make that so that they could. Well, operator, they changed it. Okay, so.
They're gonna really think this one. I'm not.
Well, no, it says either the unit's owner or primary leaseholder with 3 or few. All right, but you would have to have that by the, anyway, owner adjacent unit caused a lot of issues, and that's any dwelling unit used for rent short term, not occupied by the owner in a building with 4 or fewer total units where all units are owned by the same person, and one of the 4 units is used as the primary place of residence for the owner. So I still don't get that. Does that mean next to it? What do they mean by adjacent?
Yeah, I think we need a little work to
In a residential building with 4 or few, where all units are owned by the same person, and one of the is used as a primary place. I'm actually not understanding that now that I see it. I thought it had to be owner adjacent meant it had to be next door to you, like if you bought the house next door to you. That's what I understand as adjacent.
That's kind of what I thought too, but
I think that's what it is. But anyway, that was an issue because some people said, well, you're just going to buy a property and convert it.
But I think it's sort of is a little bit like we talked about at Alewife, is that people need to understand that doing nothing, right, is not a particularly acceptable option here. Because
it's
right now there are many people who are operating, short-term rentals outside the law. Right
well, according to Craig, everyone is operating outside the law.
Right.
Which I don't quite understand.
There's certain zoning districts where certain things are permitted uses and other things are not. And if you're essentially running a mini hotel, arguably that's not an allowable use.
You know, I asked Ira around a couple weeks ago about MIT and Harvard that rent, and I've used them, for students. She said, well, that's beyond 30 days. Usually it's not an issue.
Right. So
I don't understand how people are breaking a law if they're renting for a week versus 30 days in their own home, a room. How's that breaking the law?
I'm not sure.
Yes. Anyway.
But the point is that there are people who are kind of, it's like the black market. They're doing it and nobody minds them doing it, but they may not be legal. So there is a need to enact some regulations to legalize what's good.
Yep.
And to make illegal things that there's a real problem with. Right. Now I was actually last week, when the reason we didn't do a show last week was I was actually at an Airbnb place, first time ever.
Oh, that's right. You said
and it was up in Salisbury, up at the New Hampshire border. And it was interesting because you can really obviously tell that there are a lot of these little homes that are right down by the beach where there are people who just live there. And
they need some extra income.
Right. What's happening then is that people are buying them at a good price then just turning them into like little mini hotels. So what was like a little community is now being turned into like.
But how's that different than a bed and breakfast? Different regulations, right? Bed and breakfast pay like a hotel tax, right?
Right. Okay. So the thing is, if you had an established bed and breakfast as opposed to an entire neighborhood that within 4 years gets turned into like a nice little neighborhood, into basically a bunch of little short-term hotels, and then a few leftover residents, so the neighborhood sort of gets kind of ripped to shreds, right? That's part of maybe that's a social issue, and maybe economically you can't object, but socially maybe you can. That's part of the rhetoric I hear around Cambridge. Yeah. People are concerned that if you're living on, let's say, Essex Street, and there was Minka and Clifford and so and so all the way down the street here, and everybody knew each other, and it was saw a lot of there was a mix of short-term tenants who were there for a year or two, and then they moved away. But now you have click of those suitcases at 12 midnight. Yeah. I mean, actually, this coming Saturday, I think Saturday, June 10th, is the Antrim what is it? Gosh, it must be like the 40th.
Oh, they have the block party.
The Antrim Street Block Party. It's the longest running block party in the city of Cambridge.
Now we're trying to see who's there.
Yeah, so they say if you're a political person, no politicking at the Antrim Street Block Party.
Oh, good
That's
luck.
a rule, okay?
Yeah.
No, they hear it. They hear it. They show up, but they don't politic while they're there. They always have a polite little conversation quietly on the sideline.
They're not giving out literature.
Over some piece of pasta or something, maybe so. But the thing is that, I can imagine Antrim Street is this wonderfully cohesive street. If next thing you know was that somebody just was dropping, $2 million to go and buy this building, and then next thing you know, it's every other house on Antrim Street was a Airbnb, and people come and going. Well, that sounds pretty NIMBY-esque, right? but, where you don't know anybody and.
No, well, that was a lot of the commenters talk about that.
Yeah.
You're
so that's,
losing neighborhood, you're losing community.
So I'm actually pretty sympathetic to that, but.
Oh, no, I agree with it. I mean, I have nothing against the person that has that room, that either kid left for college, whatever, and they want extra income, because that's a little different than some of these.
Yeah.
We're buying properties just to do this as a venture.
I'm all for Airbnb and short-term rental, but I don't want to see it propagate to the point where you just sort of destroy blocks or neighborhoods.
Okay,
or whatever.
well, this was an interesting.
Now, I don't know how you do that legally.
Right. 6% of all hosts control 27% of full unit listings. So those people are in it. They're not the mom and pop people.
A lot of times people, when they want to sort of sell something, they kind of portray themselves as, I'm just I'm an empty nester. The kids have gone away. But if you're basically becoming a little hotelier now.
Right. Although this is, most hosts only have one listing.
Right.
And I'd say those are the people.
Listen, I might be convincible here that, if that's a word, that I'd be able to be convinced that there may be some districts in the city where widespread use of Airbnbs is okay.
Kendall.
Right? Like, for example, you're right down there maybe, but
yeah,
but obviously to me, I thought it is clear this is a emergent phenomenon, and it has some consequences that are not necessarily great, and it has to be addressed at least somewhat.
Yeah, and there was a chart showing where most of them were, and they were around the subways, it seemed, like Harvard Square, Central Square, Cambridgeport. Yeah, Cambridgeport actually had a lot, which is interesting to me.
Right, so that's, I don't know, I forget what the deadlines are for the ordinance, because
Well, that was a whole discussion, because Craig was concerned if this didn't go through, we have to have a committee report, we have to go back, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And Donna Lopez was trying to say this could be done by, because it was all about the June 26th is the last full. Yeah. Before the summer meeting.
Right, so they're going to have to make some.
I think he got convinced.
I mean, they can refile it, but the thing is, this is something they really should just act on.
Right, they need to. So I think it went to. There's some things that are going to be asked by CDD or I don't know.
All right. No more news on the new city council candidate front, but a lot of candidates are coming in.
Anybody dropping out?
Not yet. It's like 4 weeks to go before nomination papers are due, so it's happening, folks. So anyway, we'll be back next week on Cambridge
we will be
Inside
back
Out.
next week. All right, bye-bye.